Excellent. We are live on Planetary Health First, Mars Next, and we are super excited today. We have some amazing special guests, and this is part of our new series, Bring a Friend, because when you have friends, you can reimagine healthcare together, and you can deep dive on subjects. And man, we have some super healthcare wizards making Harry Potter look like nothing here today. We have Sergio, Wagner, and we got Shereese, Maynard. And let me just do a little quick intro of both of them. Sergio was very involved at Healthcare Gorilla as the co-founder, chief strategy officer, and he was formerly at Stanford Medicine. I think you've heard of both those companies, so I don't think we need to talk too much more about that. And then regarding Shereese, Shereese Maynard, who is my friend, I can say for sure, and hope to see more of her on these series. And she is the founder of, co-owner of Nostra Data Medical, also the founder of Ask Shereese and Hit Like a Girl podcast, which I know you've heard of before, and the owner, and she's driving much of that there, and love to see what you're continuing to do. And Shereese, you want to share a little more about yourself?
Thanks, Michael, for having me. And Michael is my friend. At Hit Like a Girl, I'm actually the co-owner. That was founded by Joy Rios and Robin Roberts, two good friends. And we were very happy to develop that company into something that is more than just about women. It's actually about the power of making change in the healthcare sector. So I'm very happy with the direction that company is going in. And Nostra Data Medical, we work on the problems around the law of healthcare, which I'm very proud to say I'm deeply involved in. And with my own company, again, I consult with brands on how to bring healthcare solutions to market and how to gain greater visibility on policy and on their solutions. I help them work on to where they're actually scalable. So I'm very proud of the work that I've done. And through my work, I've met my friend, Sergio Wagner, and I'm very happy to be here with him today.
Well, Sergio, we would love to hear just a little more about you. Can you share?
Be happy to help and happy to share. Good morning. And my name is Sergio Wagner. I have been a healthcare executive for well over 20 years now. I started my career as an interesting detour from thought I wanted to be a lawyer, decided against it, and worked for MSOs, IPAs, and medical groups through the state of California. Built an MSO from the ground up for East Bay Medical Group called Affinity Medical Group. At a point in time, 2010, when most of the healthcare ecosystem was beginning to pick a dancing partner, I was fortunate enough to be part of the strategy team that ultimately led the sale of Affinity Medical Group assets into what ultimately became Stanford Healthcare. Ran and scaled Stanford's ambulatory side. So we were growing a medical foundation coupled with the facility in the hospital. And that's when I ultimately, in the aggregation and collection of doctors and acquisition of medical practices, I met a gentleman that ultimately became my co-founder into what became the last 10 years of my life, which was co-founding and launching Health Gorilla, which is an interoperability solution. As of today, I'm doing consulting at large, and I am getting ready to start a new venture,
which we cannot share. It's still under wraps, so it will not go live. You will not hear his new venture on Planetary Health. So anyway, today we're going to be deep diving on really all about pre-authorization in healthcare. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence, sort of buzz. Have you heard that? The buzzword. And large language models. So I actually can say it. So the fact that I can say it tells you that I don't know much about it. So much of probably my mother could say much about AI right now. So you guys want to start on a little bit unpacking just where we should go with this? Shereese, you're on mute. I think there you
go. Yeah. Well, the current state of pre-auth, I think we're at a peculiar inflection point with pre-authorizations, I love this particular subject because of the way organizations are interpreting pre-authorizations. So we have companies like some of the insurers and payers like that are looking at pre-authorizations as maybe now it's a hindrance to moving forward. And we're seeing them remove some of the obstacles or that are pre-auth. So some of the conditions that you were required to have pre-auth for in the past, now they're saying maybe we don't need to have people have pre-auth for that. But also in the insurance industry, we're having them use AI and other means, innovations to blanketly reject pre-authorization. So we're at a peculiar point, and I think this is such an interesting subject because of so much is going on with regulation and looking at how pre-auths have not only structured what we've done in the past, but how it's presenting either opportunities or roadblocks for the future.
Well, one of the things that's exciting to me, I agree with everything Shereese has said for the record, but the other thing that I get excited about is, having had the opportunity to be so narrowly focused into a venture or a topic for so long, and then pulling back and having a broader look allows you to sometimes to have a sort of same conviction, different perspective, if you will. So somebody smart said to me, what is it that you're solving for? And that's something that usually sticks with me a lot. So when we think about, the pre-auth, the prior auth, whatever you want to call it, is what are we solving for and who are we solving it for? I think that those are very, very important questions, because when you think about, large language models and AI and then Da Vinci and all of these people that have been really focused and paid a lot of attention to this, is what are we really, really solving for? I think that is a very important piece of the equation that we need to unpack as well. Because if we don't, we may be throwing a lot of ideas, a lot of workflows, a lot of resources, a lot of technology into, and if we haven't really fundamentally solved and asked the very simple question of who gains, who loses, and who's it designed to help? Is it designed to help the payers? Is it designed to help the providers? Is it designed to help the patients? And usually there seems to be a convergence of actual meaningful things happening when there is an alignment of those factors. Like, for example, why did we have such a drive? I mean, you could be a cynic or you could be an optimist, right? I mean, the cynic in me will go, wow, we have been talking about for interoperability for the better part of 10 years, and here we are having a wonderful podcast with friends talking about interoperability and portions of it. So that would be the cynic. The optimist would say, it wasn't long ago, 10, 12 years ago, that I was acquiring practices for a sizable health system in Palo Alto, California, and putting those practices that I was buying on a very, very big worldwide known EMR. And my number one request was, gosh, I sure hope that my competitors, Kaiser Permanente and Sutter, can't read my data. Because at Stanford, this is my patients, this is my ecosystem. And the reality is that it wasn't until all of these organizations started taking risk that then they said, doesn't it make sense for us to share patient data if we're all treating the same patient at one point in time? So that was the unique moment in time when there was alignment, and everybody said, stakeholder A, B, and C said, okay, fine, let's raise our hands and let's agree that it makes sense for us to share data so long as we're all collectively or at one point in time have treated the same patient. I think that if we have the same sort of alignment on prior authorization, we're going to see some meaningful progress, because there's a lot of people that have done a ton of work. What I'm not really seeing just yet is the alignment. And there's a couple of other little pieces that if they fall into place, could certainly drive. And obviously, QHINs will play or have the potential to play a large role in that.
And just to piggyback on something Sergio said, it reminds me of, because Sergio and I come from the same background. We're both strategists by trade, and we both kind of dabbled in law and regulation, all that kind of stuff before we settled in the spaces that we are. And I just remember consulting with companies and early on, like maybe in the 90s or late 90s, to say, hey, this data is very valuable. Patient data is very valuable. Why would you share? And now we've come almost full circle where we're like, you need to share. So
Sharing is good.
Sharing is good, right? So I think that is, part of the problem is breaking some of the bad habits of the past. And I don't even know if they were bad habits at a time, but certainly to move us forward now, we have to consider that we have to shed some of those habits and move on. And even with that, like pre-op, the whole system of pre-ops, if you're thinking in terms of innovation, we are still largely a manual pre-op system. And that really needs to change. So I totally agree with what Sergio said, but it just brought up kind of like, wow, we've totally come full circle with how we are addressing this problem.
So is that a segue to the AI and LLMs, how there might be some opportunity there?
There's definitely opportunity. And I'm sure Sergio has an opinion about this. Go ahead, Sergio.
I have very controversial opinions on very things. I mean, the reality is, can AI and LLM help? Oh my God, absolutely so. But then again, I go back to the beginning. What are we solving for? Because the reality is that, even when you look at a managed care model where you have a division of financial responsibility between a payer and a medical group, and we say the payer says, okay, for anything that is a facility component, we pay. For anything that is a facility component, we pay. Professional component, we pay. And even at a professional component, the medical group, IPA, enterprise, will say to its constituency, its physician groups, anything in this list, go ahead and render services. Anything that's here, like an MRI with or without dye, we will want an auth. And it's simply, the auth is nothing. Oftentimes, it's not even about medical necessity, but it is about controlling cost. It is about, is this the right? I mean, and that doesn't sound very nice to say, but the reality is, let's listen. If an MRI is requested, chances are that the patient actually needs it. So what the prior auth is there to do is just, let's make sure that it checks a box. And also, more importantly, let's make sure that it's going to the right vendor with whom we have a contract. Otherwise, we may end up paying an out-of-network payment or a network fee. So I think that AI can play a role. But again, I'm fundamentally ingrained on the fact that if we align the incentives, I mean, what's an auth? A pre-auth, right? A payer says, hey, before I fork over payment for a rendered service, I want to make sure that it is justifiable and is going to the right vendor. The provider basically wants to get the service done, and the patient just want to get taken care of. So I think that if we have alignment and incentives, I think AI and LLM can actually power those things. Easier said than done, don't get me wrong, not naive. But I think that that's a fundamental piece that we have not addressed, that we as an industry have not addressed. We've made strides, and I do want to take my hat off to people like the Da Vinci Group that have made incredible efforts and strides. I mean, and there are models out there today that could basically work. When I've been talking to the health systems and payers, and they're saying, listen, 85, 80-ish% of the prior auth that basically come through, we don't, they're pre-approved. We don't even look at it. So what's the point of doing it then? It should be more than a checking box exercise, and it should be broader alignment. I'm not advocating for a fully integrated system, but we are creative people. I mean, we have brought the industry to this level. We ought to really crack this next layer of the nut.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge with the integration or the alignment? I mean, how does one start that process?
I woke up and I haven't had enough coffee, so I'm going to be a bit of a cynic this morning. Money. Simple as that. Money. We are in a healthcare business.
Now you see why I like them, because that's one of the things I always say, love it or hate it, healthcare in the United States is a business model. We like to think of it as a care model, but it is a business model. And where we're at a point now where 77% of our EDs are owned by private equity, money is the driver. So Sergio is 100% right.
So yeah, Michael, it's money and it's power too, right? Because listen, I mean, when I was at Stanford Health, we were healing humanity through science and compassion, one patient at a time. See, I still remember that. But it was like, how do we make sure that Sutter and Kaiser don't beat us? And how do I make sure that we still have the edge on UCSF, because we didn't like them that much. We always had a frenemy competition, but that's the reality. Now at a place like Stanford Health, it's an amazing place, and it's incredibly blessed to be in an incredibly affluent area, but it is about money, right? There's a reason why we keep talking about medical loss ratio. There's a reason. I mean, healthcare is a business. And it's the more that I'm not saying let's do away with the business, but the more that we can actually align those incentives, and which is another reason why you have seen this incredible vertical integration, right? I mean, there are almost no independent practice associations / medical groups left. I mean, if you look at the California Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area as a microcosm, there's no individuals. You are either part of the Stanford system, part of the UCSF system, part of the Kaiser system,
so true.
Part of the Sutter system. Then, I mean, I'm sure I'm missing some other things out there, and that's okay. Listen, the pursuit of happiness and profit is it's fine and dandy, but if we're really going to get serious about prior auth, then let's be honest about it and let's define, hey, listen, you know what? So long as you go within this circle of providers, we don't need an auth, because we have a vertical integration and we own it all, which is kind of what Kaiser has attempted to do in a way from its inception, right? Which, well, let's be honest, hasn't gone that badly for them.
I appreciate your honesty, Sergio. That's why this is so important that we have places like this where we can talk, because you just don't hear this. I mean,
I think people think you come up that we can come up with these amazing workflow ideas for EDs and for health systems and that type of thing, and it just becomes this amazing, altruistic thing. But at the end of the day, power and money drive a lot of what we do. So when you can hope for the best, but you need to be realistic about where we work.
Now, I agree. And the trick is ideally to come up with innovative solutions and innovative services to push the conversation alignment and to make the work easier, right? Because on top of that, it's like we can have, Shereese and I could say, okay, let's shake a hand and let's agree to do something. But then on top of that, if the actual work, the good work of being aligned and incentivized, and you make a buck, I make a buck, you don't screw me, I don't screw you. But then on top of that, if that comes in with an additional 87 work man hours, then we may go, oh, I don't know, is it really worth it though at the end of the day? So this is where the technology and the innovation come in, because there is a huge opportunity for that. It needs to be part of the innovative space. But the fundamentals have to be there. Like the three of us have to agree that we are aligned and this is how we're moving. And then that's when technology comes in, I think.
Yeah. So I'm hearing two things. The big thing is money. Let's get real. How are we going to make money? All of us together and drive that alignment. And then the workflows, the process, and what technology is going to work for all of us, and what does that really look like? Until you have those two things ironed out, you ain't getting anywhere.
I agree. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Can we go down the road? Because you guys are awesome, because you're friends, and Shereese, you've given us some really good stuff prior, these questions, 5-10 years. What are your predictions on this? Is this off the table? Should I just put this question off, or does this get you guys excited to talk about it?
I'm excited to talk about it.
I'm excited. I think there's a couple of things happen that excite me about the whole pre-auth process. First thing is, and I've discussed this in one of Sergio's talks, is that Amazon being a part of this particular game right now will be a game changer for pre-auths, and I think the persona that's going to benefit the being in this space are patients. So I think Amazon is looking for ways to alleviate the whole pre-auth process, and in doing so, they've been searching for ways like, does it make sense to still have pre-auths when we do have better innovation to say what a patient truly needs? Why are we, still doing this? The other thing that's happening is that companies are realizing that maybe pre-authorizations are too strenuous and too much of a time suck clinicians, and that's something we need to look at. And I always say, because this is a business, the fisherman always sees the other fisherman coming. A good fisherman always sees the other fisherman coming. So if insurers and the in healthcare organizations are smart, they're studying Amazon right now to look at this problem. So I'm excited about the future, because I think some of the obstacles and some of the heavy lifts around pre-authorizations are going to go by the wayside, because we like to have conversations about pre-authorization processes, but honestly, pre-authorization processes are still kind of a mess. So I'm looking forward to the future. And I am very interested to hear what Sergio has to say about it.
I agree with you. So, I was pulling some small notes because, this conversation gets me geeked out and excited about stuff. So let's be a little bit more, granular about what we're talking about. As far as I'm concerned, 84 men and 16 women control healthcare in the U.S. These are the larger payers and health systems, right? So, but we also know that it's a $4.3 trillion industry, 18% of our GDP. So let's get real. If we don't think it's about money, $4.3 trillion, 18% of the most powerful economy in the world is healthcare. So yes, let's heal patients and let's do right by patients, but let's also be honest. To Shereese's point, vertical integration is nearly done, right? There's no more doctors to acquire. There was once upon a time when I was wearing a different hat, I would see an orthopod and I would say, that's 2.5 million in revenue to my hospital. Mm-hmm. It's how I think. I was ingrained to think that way, right? But I do agree that it's this intersection of let's be real about money and let's align. But I do think that organizations like One Medical being acquired by Amazon, which are the movers, are likely to shake up the healthcare system in favor of patients. And I do believe that therein lies the interesting opportunity that this is where the technology comes in. Because if you have a sizable engine or a sizable entity that has the ability to move some of these pieces, and in fact, I think Amazon was offering like $9.99, telehealth visits. That's scary for a lot, but I also think that, the technology, and back to your point, Michael, about how to leverage and how to, AI or large language models. Such a tongue twister for me to say. I am absolutely convinced that, the organization that leverages AI and sort of weaponizes ChatGPT will win. Will win. If you really think about it, 40 to 50% of MD time is actually spent on administrative processes.
Yep.
Period. End of story. So if there are organizations that are effective and successful at weaponizing data, kind of the same way Epic did it in the early days, they will win. Anyone that ultimately has the ability to effectively, and I hate to use the word weaponize, but it's such a powerful word, will have a shot at winning the whole thing. That's one. I also think that it's now we have seen this incredible evolution of the primary care experience aggregation, whether it's Carvin, whether it's One Medical, whether it's, all of these organizations. I also think that now is the time to aggregate specialists. So we're beginning to see that. We saw a little bit in the early 2000s. Anesthesiologists, formed once upon a time a little cartel that held me hostage.
El Chapos.
You don't want to end up
That's my favorite specialty.
Yeah, El Chapo.
I'm telling you, they're
They're
ruthless.
brilliant. Yeah.
Of course, they're brilliant. I mean,
Mhm.
you say, hey, a surgery is going to happen, and the anesthesiologist is going to be in the room. So either having them contract, or you can end up paying $190 ASA, and what are you going to do?
Mhm.
Not anesthetize the patient. But I do think that I do think that that's that. The other thing that it will play a factor in this that I want to sort of ink on is one of the things that I truly feel that will help the process of prior auth is we have now lived through probably the greatest era of data commoditization. Access to data is a commodity.
Mhm.
And this is a controversial topic because of the place I come from. But the reality is that, once upon a time, and the once upon a time is probably circa 2016, 17, at the fledgling beginning and expansion of the data sharing networks like Air Quality, EHEX, and Commonwealth, being a connector, providing access to the data and the technology was in and of itself sort of an innovation, right? Because there weren't a whole lot of on-ramps to data. And effectively we went from, and I promise you I'm going to tie all of this to prior auth. Once upon a time we went from having access to no data to having a ton of data to having so much data I don't even know what to do with it. So great. So there's all of these CCDs and HL7 JSON stream files and what have you, and making sense of the data. And I think that sometimes in that rush to accessing data, we sometimes forget about, to me personally, the 4 principles of data, of data interoperability, which are: give me access to the data, give it to me in a format that I can actually use it and read it. Most importantly, make sense of the data. Give it some meaning. Do you care that Sergio had his tonsils out when he was 2? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you care about this last 3 lipid panels. And fourth, and just as pivotal, give me a way to put that data back into my system of record, whatever that may be. Maybe it's Epic, maybe it's eClick, maybe it's Meditech. I don't care. If you actually stick to those 4 principles, interoperability will continue to be driven forward. That's point 1. Point 2 is, I am excited to see what QHINs will do and what the government will allow and empower QHINs to do. Now, being a QHIN is an amazing thing. And congrats to all the QHINs, right? Kanza, Health Gorilla, Epic, great step forward.
That's the only one I wasn't in favor of, was Epic. I'm like, it felt not right that Epic should be a QHIN.
I mean, they control north 60% of the hospitals in the U.S. So obviously, I would have been shocked if they didn't want to have a seat at the table.
Oh, definitely.
But that being said, right? I mean, that being said, is so now you're a QHIN and you have all of these permitted purposes. But let's not go in halfway, because let's be honest, right? Participating in a QHIN is kind of a voluntary thing today. You don't have to join a QHIN. You don't have to participate in a QHIN. The moment CMS, HHS, CDC says, you know what, guys, got to pick a QHIN.
2027, I'm making that prediction.
the moment the industry is pushed to go to that, access to data in and of itself is not going to be all that it is, but having all of these organizations, if we all play in the same ecosystem, it's going to give us all of the things that we need in terms of the true fusion of clinical data and counter data and any other subsidiary data type that you need. Organizations are going to have all of the data needed to make their models and predictions. So I project and I propose that there is a world in which prior auths aren't going to be needed.
Hello.
Wow, you heard it
I
live.
truly believe it.
Well, I mean, if you really think about it, like for instance,
it's just common sense. If you look at the,
if I'm a primary care doctor and Shereese is a specialist, and Michael, you own the facility, and the 3 of us are somewhat aligned, and you have the data, I have the data, you have the data, I more or less, let's make money. I am a capitalist at heart, but let's align. And I think that we can keep cost a day. And let's not forget, guys, healthcare is the only industry in which, insofar as we are successful at driving interoperability, making all those things, the money spent on healthcare should actually decline. So, newsflash: someone's going to lose in this deal, and someone's not going to like it.
I'm predicting that the losers are going to be insurance companies.
Maybe.
So
I guess that's. I'm hoping that's losers.
I'm the turtle here. It takes me a little to process what I hear, but I think we heard a mic drop from Sergio. In the perfect world where data's there and accessible, that will make the whole need for pre-authorization obsolete. Is that correct? Did we hear it live?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Even if you think about it in terms of even the most basic of LLMs, they are learning models. So everything we put into them, they're learning and will eventually be able to perform tasks and automate things that in the past were done by the pre-authorization process. If that process is no longer needed, what do we need? I mean, what are we doing? So I agree with Sergio. I look forward to the day when we say, what pre-auth? Hopefully, like I said, I think some of the requirements that, like with QHINs and stuff, are going to start being enforced in 2027. And I hope that begins the downfall of pre-auth.
Yeah, or at a very, very minimum, in a world in which pre-authorization is needed, it will be because medical necessity, not financial exposure, will be actually judged.
The driver. Yep.
So this is, so we're taking this, bringing this back. I would have never thought we'd come to this on this show until just now.
I told you you'd be blown away by Sergio. He's brilliant.
I don't know about that.
But I think, when you're trained and when you've been a strategist, as long as the two of us have, that's all we think about all the time. Like, where's this going? What does this mean? How can my clients make money from this? And at the same time, make it make sense for patients being able to get the care where they need it, when they need it, by whom they want it to be by. And that's a delicate balance, because at the end of the day, both patients and clinicians believe that pre-authorization, the whole process of it, is a hindrance to accessing care, right? But from a money side of it, from the organization side of it, it's necessary to contain costs and that type of thing. But I do believe there's a future if we're using technology, LLMs, and that type of thing, where we'll be able to contain costs without it causing such a problem for the people who need access to care most. So, I strongly believe that there will be a day that we won't need this pre-authorization process as it exists today.
So where do you see it in the middle ground, like from the point where we are now to where that day happens? Like where do you predict these next, few years, the growing pain? Because I see this as an opportunity for precision medicine, better, like really technologies to drive better diagnostics, better care, better remote care, better genomes, all the stuff that, like, why are they giving people medications when if you took whatever that, you're not even metabolizing it right? Or why are we doing an MRI where you didn't even need it? It's musculoskeletal. So I would see that this is an opportunity for better care decisions with elevation of technology. And I'll stop that because I'm just the guy that actually just puts something out there, and I'll stop.
Well, no, I was smiling because the moment you said that, can I say that? Yeah, I could say it. So I'm about to turn 50, but nearly 10 years ago, I was born in Argentina, and the point of that is I love soccer. I play soccer. I used to play with my kids, and I'm incredibly and very highly competitive. So sometimes, even back then at 40, I would go and pick up games on Sundays and play against 18 and 19-year-olds, and sometimes I forget that I'm 40 and they're 18. The point is, I did a horrible this extension of my knee, just pivoted like 40 degrees the wrong way. And it so happened because, long story short, I did an experiment where, I was fortunate enough to live in two healthcare systems, to be in a completely enclosed healthcare system, because I had access to that, and to also live in a fee-for-service world. So back to the main point of financial alignment. In the fee-for-service world, right, I was given an MRI. I was sent to the orthopod. The orthopod really wanted to cut up my knee and say, "Oh, we got to get in there." And in the self-contained world, I sat down and I said, one of the other network's doctors said, "Listen, sir, you're 40 years old. You're not going to play competitive soccer anytime soon. The reality is that, with some PT and some rehab, we'll take an X-ray of the knee. We'll access the MRIs that we have on records. If they're not too old, we'll take a look. We'll watch it." Now, I ended up going with that option, rehab the knee, and and again, it worked. The point is a financial alignment. In a fee-for-service world, we are incentivized to just bill. In fact, one of the fallacies of the entire foundation model is, listen, I was culpable of this. I would go into physicians' offices and I would buy their practices, and I would say, "Hey, Dr. Mann, how much money do you want to make? You want to make 200,000? You want to make 300,000? Not a problem. Let me show you an RVU model in which, if you bill enough, you will get to that number." That's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be some alignment, right? There has to be some, and I go back to another principle that not mine. I stole from Professor Robinson from Berkeley, which he was talking about the Toyotification of hospitals. How do you get to the point? I mean, there's, I don't know that Alameda County Hospital in near Oakland can compete with Stanford, but what I am saying is, what if, like hospitals, were left to its own devices, hospitals, medical systems, enterprises would it compete on the basis of what kind of care am I getting? How are you? And back to Shereese's point, this is why the whole One Medical / Amazon, it's both an intriguing, scary, and interesting concept all at once, because it is basically aligning all of those things under one roof that I, as a patient, if I can actually do a $9.99 or a $29.99 telehealth visit today and not leave my desk and get in a car and drive, I'm going to do it. And that is going to be providing value to me and value to the engine. So again, I hate to go back to aligning financial incentives, but unless we get serious about doing that, we're going to spin our wheels for a little bit.
Amen to that. That's totally true.
I think the Costco might be a little interesting too with Sesame Health. I mean, they have a loyalty thing. Yeah. And I think what happens right now as a consumer, and I'm just really speaking from a consumer having a daughter and myself, it's just such an awful fragmented experience where you get your doc's visit, you get the labs, and even if they're at the same group, they don't talk, they don't speak, they don't work together. And so I know that we're going to see a more and more driving integral medicine where people want to be taken care of as a person, holistic, and we're going to see that driving up as well. They're starting to take insurance, and they do prescribe medications, but it's a holistic approach. People are tired of it's too blatant. When you go see a doc and they're just clicking away on their and they keep on, I'm the same age, by the way. I'm almost 50, Sergio. So I'm now at that age where they want to tell me every time I see them, go 50. They want to say, hey, you got to take your statins. And I found out the other day from someone that I can take this yeast, rice, whatever, and it's 50% lowered her cholesterol. I'm not trying to do this crazy, all those whatever, but there's stuff out there where people are tired of calling the doctor's office and they can't even give you a schedule because of their template isn't even working for 6 months. I mean, so it's just the consumerization, I think, will drive that, hence One Medical. And I'll stop there. I'm just trying to get you guys excited.
Well, I think that one of the things, if you think of in terms of people trying to get appointments and stuff nowadays, that is a bit of a frustration because it takes so long to get appointments. Another place where I said, where I think Amazon is going to be a driver, because Amazon, people have been asking, why is Amazon so invested in primary care? And I'm like, Amazon is not invested in primary care. They're invested in the future of care. So what they're doing is laying a foundation where they can convince a public whose attention they already have to say, hey, we can make this more convenient for you. You don't have to sacrifice the relationship you have with your doctor, because we're going to get this to you in a way that you need to have it. And we're going to remove all those obstacles that you have seen traditionally. Now, I'm not like I am a fan of Amazon because of all that they've been able to remove from the system. But I'm not out here, waving the Amazon flag, because there's some impersonalization. But I think if we can learn from how Amazon views our healthcare system, I think it can go a long way to teaching some of us to say, hey, we need to go back to where we're looking at what's good for the patient and what's good for the provider, instead of saying, how many patients can we get in to see in a short amount of time and make the most money? So it is possible to make your money and also keep physicians from burning out, and keep patients happy and focusing on the convenience, because we have to make healthcare now seamless in their lives, right?
I think also their whole customer delight, day one. I mean, I know that healthcare just needs that, to see things from a consumer perspective. And I think that's where Amazon excels immensely.
Yeah.
That's their whole tenets. If you're a founder, any founder needs to read 1997, Jeff Bezos' book, not just the book, but his actual shareholders letter. It's just such a evergreen practice, and healthcare still is not, it's just tone deaf to those principles. So anyway, Sergio, you have any thoughts over there? I know you're thinking of something. We're kind of we got about 5 minutes left, coming towards the top of the hour, kind of winding down. So this is the moment to shine. Do a few more mic drops. Man, we've had some serious mic drops on planetary health first, Mars next. Started out on AI with pre-authorizations. That's what we thought we were talking about, only to have a prediction from, Shereese and Sergio that there will be a day where there will be no pre-authorizations. What a great realization here today.
Gosh, talk about pressure. So I think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that we are in a heavily regulated, absolutely, heavily profitable industry, but at the end of the day, we are here to take care of patients. By all means, let's make a buck. But if we are going to put our money where our mouth is, and we really are going to be interoperable, and we really want to share data, and we want to compete. If a patient goes to Shereese's hospital versus my hospital, it's because the data supports it. So I think that the moment we allow, or we gently push for the free flow of data, and that gently push is me saying, all right, HHS, all right, CMS, all right, ONC, you made it. Our RCE, you did an amazing thing with this QHIN model, right? Now let's go all the way. Make it mandatory.
Wow.
Force people to participate. Force people to, at a minimum, share data, and then, sure, let the market dictate winners and losers. Let the evolution of who provides better care, who provides better access, who provides a better patient experience, because those things matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? It is a statistical fact that if you were incredibly nice to me, you smiled, you said hello, you were kind, caring, generous, you made my patient experience a delight. You know how many people I'm going to tell about it? Zero. Maybe at some dinner party, when next time I run into Shereese at some conference, like, oh my God, I had this one. And it'll be an anecdotal, oh, by the way. However, if I go and you're mean, you're rude, you make my experience a living hell, I'm going to tell some people.
You're going to be a video on TikTok. It was awful.
Today is going to be on TikTok.
You got to go to this hospital. It was so bad. You got to go and taste how awful this thing.
So I think that, you know, it's the alignment. I think my 2024 word is going to be alignment. Because the moment that you incentivize, you align incentives, and, you know, we don't have to agree. We don't even have to agree on what to agree. But if we, like, you know, does it make sense for you and I to go kind of in the same directions, and it's going to benefit us all in our own time frame and time zones and own perspectives? Because if the answer to that is yes, you've got something that we need to capitalize on. And I think QHIN got us there. I mean, I think that the QHIN thing, the QHIN event, it has the ability to be cataclysmic, because if now the ONC says, hey, CMS, hey, CDC, hey, government agencies, you have this vehicle, use it. And I keep on harping on CMS because let's be honest, biggest payer on earth.
Yep.
The moment that the biggest payer on earth starts paying attention and say, okay, I join a QHIN and I will play in treatment, payment and operations, patient access, all of these things, kind of really forces the hand of the rest of the industry.
Yep.
Well, where do we go from here? You know, this was just great.
This was a great conversation. But I think where we go from here is to actually be actionable on the things that we say. On the, you know, Sergio and I are both considered leaders and influential. So we have to take our voices and inspire other people to do the work. You know, we have to be actionable in our steps and our writing and everything that we do, and let the dreamers dream. I always say when products or solutions come to market, they're meant to make systems run more smoothly, or to make things smoother for physicians or patients. We need all of those things to succeed, right? They don't all do, but we need them to, because we need people to be able to, again, make healthcare work seamless in their lives. So with regard to the whole pre-auth thing and that type of thing, we need the dreamers to dream, and we need to create an atmosphere where it's okay for them to create things that make things better for patients and physicians and make our clients money.
Yeah. And listen, and fail. You know, I was reading something that says the difference between a winner and a loser. A loser is a person who just didn't get up and did it again. I mean, the reality is you have, you know, I read this, you were talking about 1997. I love that. But I was also reading a quote from Michael Jordan, and that the guy quoted like I've missed 23,000, some crazy number where the guy actually kept track of every single shot he missed. Arguably the greatest basketball player ever. Don't want to get into controversy, but what can I say? The Bulls, the 90s Bulls are it for me.
Yeah.
Sergio, I love that reference. And I also want to add to the Amazon with the experiments. That when I read his book, which really was excerpts from all his speeches, there's a book. Walter Isaacson wrote the forwarder, and he wasn't able to get him. I guess Elon Musk beat him on that, but that's another thing. Hopefully, if he pays enough, he will. But the whole thing was they were experimenting. They ran so many experiments in that place, and they still do. And that's part of that culture day one. So I think you're so right on that. And hopefully you guys galvanized and excited the healthcare community on. I know you did on this today. So I really want to first and foremost thank you, Sergio and Shereese, for saying yes to coming today, and hope to have you in the future as well.
Love to.
So you heard it live today on Planetary Health First, Mars Next, Bring a Friend series. And this was all about pre-authorization in healthcare. And we thought we were going to solve it, but really we forecast that it's no longer necessary if everything lines up. We're not short sellers. We can't tell you how to invest in the app to short sell pre-authorizations. But anyway, you heard it live. Have a great day, and we wish you the best. Peace.